If you like the sweet science, get ready to talk boxing on the Gloved Fist podcast with top boxing writers Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch. Frank, a former amateur boxer out of Philadelphia, writes for NY Fights and can be seen on the Boxing Channel. Jack, an amateur boxer who competed in the New York Golden Gloves, was a 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association. And now, here's Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch.
And we're back. Welcome to Glove Fist. Happy New Year, everyone. My name is Frank Latirzo, former writer, full-time observer, joined by Jack Hirsch, former 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association of America. Jack, we're going to hit some football in a minute. Happy New Year. Did you have a good New Year?
Yeah, very good New Year. And it's even going to get better with all the games starting Thursday, the college games and so on. And then we cap off at the end of the month, the week before the Super Bowl, Teofimo Lopez against Shakur Stevenson. I mean, we got a ton of sport action. Football's dominating right now. Boxing's going to start getting in the picture again at the end
Jack,
of the month.
And you're right about the game starting with the college 2 playoff games Thursday and Friday, then the NFL playoffs start. Look, let's just get this out of the way. Before the season started, my Super Bowl pick was the Eagles and the Bills. Now that we're here, I'm going to go with the Eagles and the Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more stubborn than you, Frank. When I make a pick in the beginning of a year, I stick with it no matter what, unless there's a major injury. For example, if Josh Allen was out for the year, yeah, I wouldn't stick with the pick. Then it would be obvious that, very unlikely that the Bills can win, but stick with your pick.
No, Jack,
like
the reason why
I stuck with the Buccaneers and Ravens all year long, and look where it got me.
My point is this. When the season started, I thought Eagles, Bills. Now that I've seen 4 months of football, I think it's going to be the Eagles and the Broncos. I don't think anybody's going to, none of these AFC teams are going into Denver and winning. So, I'm going to pull for the Bills, but I don't think that's going to happen. Okay.
2 questions. Answer one very quickly, and then the other, and then we'll wrap up the football.
Go ahead.
Ali Liston, second fight, dive a legitimate knockout.
Jack, Liston did get hit. You see his head turn when that right hand lands. I've told you this before, that back in 79, after Curtis Parker and I got done sparring, we were sitting around, hanging around, and we were talking to Willie Reddish, who was Liston's trainer, about the fight. And he didn't say anything about whether it was on the up and up and up, but he did say that Liston said that Clay punched a lot harder than I thought he did. And that surprised me. As far as the fight being a bag job, you know what, Jack? I'm sorry. I think the way Liston rolled around on the canvas after that, and the way he got up and then he fell back down, and then when Walcott wouldn't help him out and count him out, he actually started fighting Ali in the corner again. I kind of think something funny was going on.
Okay. Joe Burrow yesterday, did he tank the sack for Myles Garrett and not for the record?
It did look like it had a little Brett Favre in it, didn't it?
It did. It caught my eyes. I wasn't happy about it. Okay. Boxing here. The big fights, I mean, they get made and they don't get made. Why do we have these big lulls in time? We keep waiting for Boots Ennis and Virgil Ortiz to sign for the fight, and something is holding it up. Boots Ennis wants to fight. Virgil Ortiz wants to fight. I think it's the purse split, and I guess Oscar De La Hoya, who, promotes Virgil Ortiz, feels his man deserves a bigger purse split. And based on what they've both done so far, let's forget their potential, Frank. Based on what they've both done so far, do you think he deserves a little bigger purse split? Should Boots settle for 60-40 deal. And
I think it should be 50-50 first, Jack. I mean, I agree with you about Ortiz. Maybe he's done a little bit more, but Boots passes the eye test better. Neither one is a household name or a star. But the answer to your first question is, Jack, that's why it is so hard. And I know we're going to bring Lee Groves on in about 10 minutes. And I think he is more enthused about this sport right now than I am. And because of the way these fights are and they don't get made, and there's just so much talk on social media. Now Tyson Fury is back in the fold. He's training. He's going to fight again. I don't care about Tyson Fury. I can't take him serious. And I'm a little tired of seeing Oscar De La Hoya, his post every other day now, why Mayweather is so much better than Crawford. Oscar doesn't believe that, and I'm tired of his games.
Things have been ticking me off lately, Frank. I don't know, is it because I'm getting older and I'm falling into the category of a cranky old man?
Yeah, get off my lawn. I'm the same way, Jack.
No. But two things bothered me today. I see on social media that everyone's saying the reason Frazier and Ali didn't fight in 1972, the year after, because Frazier was ducking Ali. At that point, neither guy was pushing for the rematch. They knew it was eventually going to take place. I remember seeing so many newspaper articles, Ali saying, not ready for the Frazier rematch yet. They weren't pushing the issue, but people who are maybe a little younger see, because they hadn't fought till 3 years later, they were assuming that Frazier ducked Ali, that Ali wanted an immediate rematch. Ali did not want an immediate rematch. Frazier did not want an immediate rematch.
Ali talked like he did, Jack. Ali was, after each fight, after his subsequent 10 fights, he talked about that and he mentioned Frazier. But he wanted the pot to build and he wanted to get into better shape. And for Frazier, in his mind, he was never going to fight Ali again for a split purse. And he lost that leverage when he fought George Foreman.
But there were no serious negotiations until they actually had the rematch. Frazier, after he beat Ron Stan in the ring, says who he wants next. He says, I want Cassius Clay next. He pointed. And both guys, they both didn't push the issue. It was similar. Pacquiao and Mayweather both mutually dragged it out.
Well,
Pacquiao through his promoter, Bob Arum, and Mayweather through himself dragged it
after Ali and Frazier both lost in 73, they kind of had to fight each other to become relevant again, to get a shot at George Foreman. And speaking of that Frazier standard rematch, the next time you watch it, Jack, pay attention when they interview Frazier after the fight. George Foreman is in the ring, and he goes up to Frazier just as the interview is ending, and he goes, I deserve the next shot. And Frazier turned to him and he said, anytime.
Okay. Frazier was asked what his biggest mistake was against Foreman. He said signing the contract. He laughed, about it. He always had a good sense of humor about it. Let me tell you another thing that bothered me. Mike Coppinger, was on with Max Kellerman on the thing with Ring. And I like Mike. I know him, Certainly nothing personal. I like Mike. But he's talking all enthusiastically about Keith Thurman, Sebastian Fundora. What a fight. Keith Thurman.
Oh, my Lord. Really?
Has fought 2 times since losing to Manny Pacquiao in 2019. You hear me? When 2026, in the last 6.5 years, Keith Thurman has fought twice. And Mike Coppinger's talking all enthusiastically about what a wonderful fight against Fundora. It's like you mentioned with Tyson Fury. These guys are all given a gold card. They can fight once every 5 years, and everyone flocks to them. People are suckers, Frank. Suckers.
You're right, Jack, and that's why we get the product that we get. And I can't believe that Coppinger could be excited about Keith Thurman fighting in 2026. He is so far past his sell-by date, and Fedor will beat the heck out of him.
No, regardless, Keith Thurman does not deserve anything remotely like a title shot. But then you look at Ryan Garcia, a modern-day guy. He cheats against Devin Haney, gets suspended a year. Okay,
wouldn't have fought anyhow.
Let's even forget about the weight. Him not trying to make the weight. because Haney's people went through with the fight for extra money. That's on them. But the PEDs,
Jack,
okay?
you're not going to like this, and we touch on this a lot, but I'm going to blame this on Mr. Mayweather for the fact that these exhibitions have changed. Jack, they've changed the dynamic of the sport and a lot of the big names. I mean, think about it. Jake Paul, who fought one real fighter in 12 fights going into the Joshua fiasco, was Tommy Fury, and he lost. But Jack, how does Jake Paul get
a line? No, my point is this. Let me just finish what I was saying with Garcia. The Garcia suspended a year. He comes back and is beaten badly by Rolly Romero over the distance, a very widely beaten badly. And now he's getting a title shot. I mean, the whole thing is ludicrous.
But that's what I'm saying, Jack, how it's just a joke. It's the same thing. You can use that as an example. My example was going to be that a guy like Jake Paul gets a fight with a guy who was a former gold medalist and a two-time defending world heavyweight champion. He leapfrogs everybody, and it's a joke. The fight's a joke, and it's like, it's so hard to take this sport serious on so many levels. Let me just say hi to Joe and Paul Driscoll, guys. How you doing?
We're going to get Lee
Happy New Year.
We'll get Lee Groves on shortly. I got to tell you a funny thing. Years ago at Canastota in New York, we had a group who would get together for dinner. A couple of them aren't with us anymore, like Jack Obermeyer, Neil Terrens, Jeff Jowett, myself, Lee Groves joined in the group, Eric Bacha. And we used to have we used to give one another nicknames. I think I remember Lee's nickname. Okay, I think it was Lee the Hitman Groves, if I'm not mistaken. It would be named after a fighter. I wonder whether Lee remembers what my nickname was in the group that was given to me by Jack Obermeyer. And it wasn't even my favorite fighter, but I should be flattered over the name. So when we get Lee,
I have one, but I'm not going to say it.
Does he remember the nickname that I was given in the group? Jeff Jowett still calls me that today. Okay.
I can't wait to hear this because I have a couple in mind.
We could get Lee on a couple of minutes early. We can't get too much of a knowledgeable guy like Lee Groves, boxing historian who keeps the stats for CompuBox, and has been on this show in the past as a guest, and he co-hosted with Frank in the past as well. So if Lee's there, we could get him on. Hey, Lee, do you remember, what was my nickname in the group? Do you remember?
I believe it was Montekia, correct?
Montekia.
Yeah.
Why?
I guess after Jose Napoli.
Yes.
That was given by Jack Obermeyer. They were thinking of a nickname. Yours was Hitman, right?
I think I was. It was the last time that we got together for the dinner, and I was finally given a nickname.
Now, Lee has tremendous credentials. One of his credentials is he wrote a book on Muhammad Ali by the numbers. And I tell you, Frank, I was fascinated about one statistic.
I know what it is. Frazier landed more punches in the first fight.
Punches than Ali. But let me tell you another thing, the service that Lee did. I did a story on Charles Mooney, who won a silver medal in the 76 Olympics. And Mooney, it meant a lot to him what Lee sent me the punch total. Like Mooney landed 3 more punches, but the judges had it 5-0 for, the South Korean fighter. So it kind of gave Mooney a little bit of validation, not that he was robbed, that the fight could have gone either way. He could never understand how, he got whitewashed 5-0. So that means a lot to these guys.
Well, bad decisions in the Olympics back then were pretty common.
But I got to tell you, I know Lee's big into analytics. I'm half and half. Frank is a little more old school than me, I think. Now, Frank, I'll give you an example how old school Frank is. Frank feels, and I felt it was very close, but Frank feels Ali deserved a decision in the rubber match with Ken Norton. And your analytics say just the opposite.
Yeah, it was the opposite. Ali wasn't the float he was the float like a butterfly, sting like a bee in terms of movement and form, but he got hit a lot more than I even thought he ever was. And the thing about it was that Ali was a master of disguising what had just happened to him. He gets hit with a body shot. You take a look at the first 5 rounds of the George Chuvalo fight, the first one. And Chuvalo went to town on Ali's body, and that's because Ali let him. And his facial expression didn't change. His skin, it didn't swell or cut or anything like that. And Ali reacted so quickly to being hit by countering and usually landing clean that you just forgot that he had been hit by a punch. And he did it time and time and time and time again.
Ali was the master of making it look like he was dominating and fighting his rear end off when he wasn't doing anything. And that really did save him. He had a presence, a ring presence that he just, even when he was being outlanded, his movement, his facial expressions and the whole bit, and the way he would get off sometimes, he always looked like he was in control.
Absolutely. He was the master. He had such a presence. And he had such a persona, and he really had a spell over the judges too.
Yeah.
He could mess around. Take a look at the first few rounds of the Jimmy Young fight. He didn't land a single punch in the first round, and yet I think 2 of the judges scored it even.
Lee, I don't remember Ali. I'm sorry, Jack. I didn't mean to. I don't ever remember Ali looking as bad as he did in that Young fight. And I will say this for years. I've written articles about it. What hurt Ali in that fight was Jimmy Young forced Ali to fight like George Foreman. And Ali had to be the aggressor. And for once, he had to chase a smaller, quick guy who was looking to counter him. And then when you take into account, Ali does not throw body punches. So all he has are 1-2s to the head. Jimmy Young evaded them. And that was the one fight where Ali got the decision where I scored the other guy more rounds for him. I think I had 7-6.
Let me tell you, I scored the fight for Ali by 1 point based on Young continuously ducking his head out of the ring. To me, that's damaging. You cannot let him get away with that. That's the equivalent of a knockdown. Let me ask you guys this, for example. You're scoring a fight, and you want to obey what the referee says in terms of scoring. But if you see in 4 of the rounds, the guy gets hit squarely in the chin, he goes down, and the ref calls it a slip, you're going to get disgusted. And you're going to score the round for the guy landing the punch anyway, because you said enough is enough with this. And that's what I saw with Young doing. Enough was enough. He kept ducking his head out of the ring. And he, and after he did it a couple of times, I don't remember how many times he did it, but after he did it 1 time, even I had it. That was it. No excuse. To me, it was like the equivalent of a knockdown.
Ali just looked so bad that way.
This was also during the era in which a challenger had to beat the champion half to death to get a decision. And Jimmy Young didn't
especially a popular champion. Especially an iconic popular champion like Ali.
Absolutely so. I mean, you take a look at the charisma department. Ali had him by parsecs. Could you imagine Jimmy Young taking over the mantle of Ali? He deserved.
Yeah, they couldn't allow that to happen.
Well, Jimmy Young with CompuBox the stats, how did he do against Ken Norton? You remember?
No, I don't remember. I don't even know if we counted that fight retroactively.
Why that wouldn't be in an Ali book, Jack.
No. It wouldn't be in the Ali book, but Lee, has a vast library of these fights. I think
the conventional wisdom is that Young should have won the fight.
Right. That's
I scored it for Young.
One fight I never saw on tape. I got to get around to watching it someday. That was controversial. Willie Pastrano, Harold Johnson. That would get Russell Peltz going because Harold Johnson was his idol.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to Angelo Dundee, Pastrano's trainer manager, about it. And he tap danced around the subject, whether this guy deserved a decision. He did this, but I kind of won that particular fight. But it's hard when you know what happened. I watched
when you know the result, it's tough.
The Joey Giardello Hurricane Carter fight, I had Giardello up a point, but I knew what was happening, before you watch the fight. So it kind of makes it hard.
Well,
Lee,
the
before
beauty
you
of
jump
it-
in, let me just say one thing. Back to Young and Ali. What
Okay.
always made me laugh that I would read where some guy said is that Jimmy Young was ducking out of the ropes because Ali was hurting him to the body. And like, how crazy is that? Ali wasn't hitting him to the body, and he never hurt him one time during the fight. And I told Jack this, Lee, but I trained at Joe Frazier's when Jimmy Young was there, and I asked him, "What were you doing?" Because it probably cost you the fight. He said, "I just wanted to do what to Ali, what he did to everybody else, where he has his Mirage and Rope-a-Dope, because I wanted to mess him up and get in his head."
Mm.
That was his reason for. He said, "No, he didn't hurt me at all."
Now, Frank, I realize we should have given Lee a formal introduction. We assume that everyone knows who he is because, we know him, so we just start talking. Lee co-hosts a great podcast himself with James Smitty Smith, great guy who actually is the MC for the International Boxing Hall of Fame on induction weekend.
And trained at the Fifth Street Gym, right?
Yeah, I had trained exactly in a Fifth Street Gym, and as a little kid, Ali took him under his wing. It was fascinating talking to Smitty this past June. He hung around the Miami Dolphins.
That's right.
Your team, Frank's a Miami Dolphin fan, by the way, Lee, a big Miami Dolphin fan.
And speaking of that, Jack, Lee and Smitty interviewed one of my favorite Dolphins, who I think is one of the top receivers of all time, but because he played on teams that were built around Jim Brown and Larry Zonka, he didn't get 1,000 receptions, and that's Paul Warfield.
Yeah, Paul Warfield, legendary. He was ahead of his time when it came to running pass patterns and all kinds of receiver theory. Also a tremendous guy. And the thing about Smitty, he not only hung around the Dolphins, he was their ball boy during the 1972 season.
Oh,
And
my
so
God, really?
He was, yes.
Wow.
He was the
Lee,
ball
you
boy.
know what?
He was one of the ball boys.
I know you know this, and Jack's going to get nervous because we're going on football for a second, but this is unbelievable.
I was going to ask him a football/boxing related
Lee, think about this.
Okay.
Paul Warfield
Mhm.
had 427 receptions, and 85 of them were touchdowns, and his career average was 20.1 yards a catch. He was not one of these guys that were on the West Coast offense and catching the ball 2 yards off the line of scrimmage and then running for 20. Paul Warfield was the ultimate deep threat in the NFL. If he played today, his numbers would be off the chart.
Yeah, he was like Cliff Branch. He was the ultimate home run hitter.
Who of all the football players who became boxers, who was the greatest?
Golly.
Football player/boxer. I'll throw a name out. How about Steve Hammis off the top of my head?
Interesting. Was Charlie Powell? Does he?
Yeah,
Charlie Powell played. Didn't he play baseball too?
Is he a contender?
I think he fought Ali, did he not?
He was like a bottom 10 contender, Jack. He fought Ali in 63.
Powell played for the Raiders.
Alonzo Highsmith had a pretty good record as well. I don't know
No,
about
but
the
yeah,
quality of
come on,
competition.
guys. Too tall Jones, I could say, was unbeaten. Come on.
Well, he only
man.
had 6 fights, Jack, so we're not going to count him.
No. I don't want to hear Alonzo Highsmith. He never made his mark in boxing. What about, do we count college? Now we could talk about a guy like Terry Daniels, played for SMU. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm thinking.
If we're going to talk
NFL.
college, Cobb has to be in there too.
No, you could talk about a number of college guys who played in the NFL. I mean, don't tell me Frank's going to come up with Mark Gaston. No, Lee, I'm counting on you.
No, I'm not. Well, wait a second, though, Jack. If we're going to talk college, who had a better career than Cobb? He beat Shavers, fought Norton.
Question. Of all the guys who played in the NFL who kind of transitioned to boxing, who was the greatest fighter? It's kind of thought-provoking in a way.
It is. I'd really have to think more about that.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head is Charlie Powell.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
wrestling,
He fought Patterson too, didn't he?
I'm
I
not
don't
sure.
think so.
I can look
He
it up.
fought a lot of named
No.
guys.
Okay, yeah, no, it's just a little thing. Okay, and Lee also, for everyone out there, he keeps the stats for CompuBox. And I like CompuBox a little more than Frank likes it.
Mhm.
I use it to justify my scores at times. Like a round's going to end and I'm doubting myself how I scored it. And then
Mhm.
I see CompuBox was close at least in the round, so I kind of breathe a sigh of relief. But if CompuBox has one fight out landing the other 21-6, and I gave it to the guy who landed the 6 punches, I get deflated. Then I say, CompuBox doesn't
My
know
only issue,
something
Lee,
about it.
I have two issues.
But I do
One,
like CompuBox. It's amazing.
and I think it's a tool. My issue is this.
Mhm.
What if a guy goes out real hard early in the first 3 rounds and lands a bunch of punches and then fades in the last 7, and it gives you a skewed look at the fight because maybe he was only really busy for 3 rounds. That, and the other thing is, and this might even be a bigger factor, Lee, if you and we'll just take this fight as an example because it's the biggest fight ever. If you and I both watched Ali Frazier once sitting next to each other and counted the punches, I believe that our counts would be different on every punch. I think at the end of the round, if I'd have Ali land in 15, you might have 17, you might have Frazier landing 11, and I might have him landing 7. And that's my only issue.
Well, let me address the first objection first. Yes, if you take a look at the totality of numbers, it can be skewed if someone came off to a fast start and then faded in the stretch and the other guy caught up. Well, one way that you could measure it is look at the round by round breakdown of connects. And more often than not, the round by round breakdown of connects lines up with well scored fights. So you could have a guy outlanding the other guy 60-20 and sweeping the first 3 rounds. But if the other guy outlands him in the last 7 rounds, it's going to be 7 rounds to 3.
Well, yeah, if you break it down like that, yes. But most of the time when we see the breakdown, it's usually the total punch count. But
Yes,
I get what you're saying.
The round by round breakdown, and all you see are the final numbers. And then
Right.
people take the totality of it and they say, oh, they got the wrong winner. Well, you can go a little deeper into the numbers. Like, for instance, you could also look at the numbers to see how aggressive a guy is based on his punch selection. If a guy is throwing more jabs than power shots, then you can perceive that this guy was less aggressive. But if a guy throws a lot more power shots than jabs, then you could say that fellow was more aggressive and more likely to win rounds. But you have to dig deep into the numbers, and that's a depth that's usually not seen.
But on the punch count, a jab is equal to a right hand.
In terms of the total, yes.
Landed.
The one big thing about CompuBox is that it doesn't measure impact. And impact, of course, counts heavily in professional scoring.
Which would be impossible to do, basically.
Big fight, Crawford and Canelo wasn't a controversial decision. I know that. But some of us did give Canelo a few rounds. I had it 8 rounds to 4. I think Frank had it about that way. Even Andre Ward had it that way. Crawford says he didn't think he lost any rounds. Maybe he lost 1 at most. What did the numbers say?
Well, I think the total numbers were fairly close, and if you give me a second, I can bring them.
Well, round by round. I mean,
round by round.
You actually, Lee, an acknowledgement in my Mike Spinks book that's going to come out soon. I actually put down your name there because you'd actually helped me with the Eddie Davis Mike Spinks fight, which
that was a good one.
The numbers break down on that.
I do.
Was Michael Spinks any good?
Yeah, I think he was pretty good.
I'm messing with Jack, Lee.
No, in the Davis fight, he won the fight, but the numbers favored him in 7 of the 12 rounds, but it was close. It wasn't a good night for him, even though he thinks
Eddie Davis did to Michael Spinks what Michael Spinks did to everybody else. His awkwardness messed with Michael, and his herky-jerky inside.
He won by a very wide margin. He still doesn't understand the fuss. But okay, what could I tell you?
Let's see. Alvarez, Crawford, Alvarez, Crawford. 5-5-2.
Wow.
in punches.
Wow. Wow.
But there were a lot of swing rounds because
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of the rounds were 3 or fewer total connects.
Yeah.
And Crawford probably won those with ring generalship, which is a factor that is not usually a big deal when it comes to the 4 criterion of scoring.
But it wasn't a lopsided fight in Crawford.
No, Crawford outlanded him by 16 punches.
He clearly won the fight, but it wasn't lopsided. You know, it's not like Canelo was outclassed. You start hearing these narratives.
After the 4th or 5th round, I felt Crawford was in control, though.
Yeah, I did too. No, I felt he was going to win at that point, but he was leaving the door open for a while where the judges could swing a couple of rounds to Canelo. And then, listen, 2 of the judges had it 115, 113, and the other one.
Lee, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I wanted to, Frank, after this question, I want to review the year 2025, go over with Lee. Okay, so after this question.
Lee, what do you think of Crawford as a fighter? I think he's an all-time great. I think he could have fought in any era. I think he's the most complete fighter maybe of this century so far. I think head-to-head, 140, 147. I think he takes Mayweather apart. I think Crawford is the real deal. And in closing, if Crawford of Spence fought Leonard of Hearns 1, I'm not sure who I'd pick. I think that highly of Crawford. Where are you?
I agree with most of what you're saying. Crawford is an all-time great. He's won titles in 5 weight classes, 3 undisputed. Or was it 3 undisputed or 4 undisputed? I don't know.
3 undisputed.
And he's one of the most versatile fighters. He fights well out of both stances, even though later in his career he fought almost exclusively out of the southpaw. Very, very intelligent, very accomplished. He beat a whole bunch of guys who held titles and if his retirement sticks, you can make an argument that he had the greatest swan song in boxing history. I mean, going out, jumping up 2 weight classes to fight an undisputed champion, winning that fight in fine style, and then retiring undefeated. I mean, you can't really ask for a whole lot more.
And as I say to Jack Lee, and I use this a lot, let's just say that you and I had a fighter that was a welterweight, okay, and he was elite, and he was fighting Terence Crawford. What do we tell him? Like, what's his weakness? Because I have yet to see a weakness in him, what he can't do or adapt to.
I would like to see a guy who would exert a lot of pressure.
Duran in the first Leonard fight.
Duran in the first Leonard fight actually, I think, beats Crawford. That version of Duran who's coming out relentless, who's not going to get stopped early. He would throw Crawford off his game, and it would take Crawford a few rounds to get going. And I think Duran would be able to stick with him enough to get.
That would be the tough matchup for him.
It would be like the Leonard. It would kind of be like the first Leonard fight, the way it would. Duran-Leonard, I think would turn out that way, but I think Duran might win that one with Crawford a tiny bit more decisively.
And that's how great Crawford is, isn't it? That we compare him with the greatest version of Roberto Duran, possibly in his career. That was the zenith of Roberto Duran as the animal, the ultimate animal, the ultimate machismo monster. Unfortunately, that's the last time that we ever saw him like that, with the 72-1 record, with the greatness at lightweight.
I want to get back to that. I want to get back because this is fascinating stuff. Even if it's only a couple of minutes, and I'm so disgusted with boxing in its current state. I wouldn't mind if this lasted only a couple of minutes.
But why are you forcing us to talk about it when we're talking about good stuff?
2025, I guess the big story is Crawford beating Canelo was the biggest single story. What else basically stuck out? Is it His Excellency making his mark on the sport, or what?
Yeah, I mean, look, he has set the bar so high when it comes to payouts. to the point where if he loses interest and he goes away, what then? Because I can't think of a sport, a professional sport, in which a bar regarding money had been set and then retreat. You're not going to see that. So we have to hope that he stays in the sport for a very long time, so that the big fights can still be made. And unfortunately, the only way that the big fights can be made is to offer Fort Knox 3 times over to a guy. And that's sort of what's wrong with the sport in general, in that there are careers that are being crafted over 8, 9, 10 years with the objective being one big payoff, one big bag. And then you have a whole bunch of marination and setup fights and everything else, with the chance that somewhere along the way, one of those setup fights are going to go awry and the big fight never happens, and the fight fans are denied the big fights that they want to see. I am an optimist. I am an optimist at heart, but I'm also a realist. And I said at the end of our last show, Smitty and I, that my fondest wish is for the powers that be that can make everything happen in the sport would shift their focus from chasing the next dollar like they have for the past 30 or 40 years to growing the sport for the new generation, and to grow it for the right reasons, not because a YouTube influencer happens to infiltrate and create these big events and make people think that that is real boxing. That is not real boxing. I delineate it between big time boxing and big top boxing. And what Jake Paul has done is create this big event feeling. And because boxing navigated away from the mass platform known as free over-the-air television to go to basic cable, then premium cable, then pay-per-view, and now with ESPN
Streams.
in July, it's now all streaming. And with DAZN, basically everything is pay-per-view. And if you want to not have to go through a second paywall, you got to get the ultimate package, which is $45 a month.
Yeah, I have its own package. I'm paying a lot of money for $224 a year.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I think it was the fights from Japan, Inoue Nakatani. And I think I'm getting it on my regular zone thing. I get up early in the morning. The fights are from Japan to tune in. And it keeps saying PPV. I go, what the heck is this, pay-per-view? But I'm a subscriber. They want to charge me pay-per-view for that. Sometimes I feel as a show I have to get. I'm very friendly, and we had Teofimo Lopez's dad on this show.
Mm-hmm.
I got to get that show, anything, because
Sure.
of a relationship there. And it's a heck of a fight. It's a heck of a fight. But I want to get your take on that fight that's coming up. But is there anything outside of Paul, Joshua, in the state of boxing to review for 2025? I don't think there's anything that's specific.
So in preparation, you told me that we were going to do a review of 2025, and I wanted to discuss, fights of the year, fighter of the year, stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So fights of the year, I chose 6. There's 6 candidates. Isaac Cruz versus Angel Fierro won. That was a real fire fight. Callum Smith, Joshua Buatsi, that was a brawl. The first Chris Eubank Jr. Conor Benn fight, it was presented as a big top fight, a curiosity. It turned out to be one of the fiercest contests of the year. Yeah. And then you have Christian Mbili versus Lester Martinez. That was a really...
You know what I remember about that fight? Mm-hmm. Lester Martinez is Terrence Crawford's stablemate. So as Crawford's getting ready for Canelo, he's sitting in the dressing room and he's watching them intently. I mean, it just shows how close Crawford is to all his gym mates.
Yeah, very much so. And then Junto Nakatani, Sebastian Hernandez, and Kenshiro Taraji, Seigyo Akuri. We had a lot of really good quality fights. They just get buried in the mess that the administrative structure of boxing has become.
Lee, and I missed half of those fights just for the reason that you just said.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm not good with tech. I'm an old man. I'm not good with tech. And sometimes I get so frustrated. And I remember there being fights during the year that I wanted to see. I was willing to pay for them and still didn't know how to get it.
I remember when His Excellency when he first started, he put on 8 fights, quality fights on a Saturday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And Frank and myself was psyched about it. Frank is calling me up. How do I get these darn fights? Frank wants to give them his money, and he has a hard time giving them his money.
Mm-hmm.
It was insane. And young people who are tech savvy, fine. But old timers, and we're smart, but we're not tech savvy, a lot of us. And and it keeps bouncing back this and that, and you want to get through, and you're going through all these hoops. I mean, we even get that at a sporting event. I went to the World Baseball Classic a couple of years ago, Miami, the last one. And I'm told, I can't just buy a ticket at the box office. I have to get my app. Even when I see the person at the box office, I have to take out my phone, go through my app. And then they have the audacity to charge me a service fee. I'm there. What service fee am I being charged?
Right.
The issue is that, first of all, we don't see enough of these guys. So when it's a big fight, that we recognize it's a big fight, the general population doesn't know who these guys are. So they're going to say, why am I going to pay X amount of dollars to see 2 guys fight? I hear they're good, but I don't know who they are. Where if we saw them like we did in the 70s, 80s, and a lot of the 90s, and then we see these 2 guys winning on the same weight class, and eventually, they're going to fight. Okay. That's the problem. So boxing, it's the hard. I've been saying this for a couple of years now. It's the hardest sport to follow and find.
And also, as far as the access issues are concerned, it's the championship structure. You have 4 widely recognized sanctioning bodies with 4 different sets of rankings. And if you're lucky enough to become an undisputed 4-belt champion, you have 4 mandatory challengers that you got to fight. You can't have a
it's
5
not, the undisputed is nonsense. Don't even dignify it, Lee. It's a big joke to call
it just illustrates where boxing is now.
Well, okay, so the fight of the year amongst the 6, my vote would probably go to the first Ben Eubank fight.
Yeah, that was a terrific fight. It really was. And Conor Benn proved that he could fight at 160 pounds. And we weren't sure about that. Fighter of the year. And there seems to be a debate between Naoya Inoue, who fought 4 times, undisputed, defended, looked impressive in all 4 of his fights. Although he did get dropped in one of those fights. I think it was against Ramon Cardenas. Is that was his name? Yeah. And then you have Terrence Crawford, right? Because he had the one big historic victory. Between the 2 of them, I would pick Inoue because I want to encourage top flight fighters to fight more than once a year.
Wait. 1971, Frank and myself constantly talk about the first Ali Frazier fight. Frazier fought once that year, and as I recall, you could look it up. Ruben Olivares, I think, fought like maybe 4 times. Maybe I'm wrong on this. I mean, if one of you guys wants to look it up or whatever, Ruben Olivares, 1971, and there was a debate whether it should go to Frazier or Olivares based on Frazier only fighting once and fighting early in the year.
Right.
But the fight was so historic. I mean,
no, it had to be Frazier in 71. I'm not sure about Crawford this year, but no, Frazier won the biggest fight in this history of the sport. He had to be the fighter of the year.
And allow me to introduce a dark horse candidate for fighter of the year. He's not going to get it, but considering what he did during the course of 2025, he deserves at least a little nod, and that is Rene Santiago. He is the current. I think he is a WBO champion. He goes to Japan and he dethrones the defending champion in March, and then he goes back to Japan and he beats a 10-0 challenger from Japan by split decision. So he went from a non-champion, a non-entity, to a defending world champion who scored back-to-back upsets away from home. I think that's a pretty accomplished year.
How many times did Bam Rodriguez fight, Lee? 4?
Yeah, Bam Rodriguez certainly deserves consideration. Just
consideration.
What a special fighter he was.
I love him.
I mean, Crawford is probably going to get it in a way. I'll have, I think, a fair amount of support. I can't say for sure that Crawford would get it, because you never know how people are going to vote.
I don't think Crawford's going to get it, Jack.
You think Inoue's going to get it?
I think Inoue's 4 fights are going to top it.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Even though not a lot of people didn't see them, the fact is he fought 4 outstanding guys and he won impressively just about every time. And the fact is, like Lee said, you know what? Maybe fans are going to reward guys being active. I don't know if that'll be the case, but
Fight of the year is tricky. Do you guys realize Roy Jones never won the Boxing Writers Association of America's Fight of the Year award? He never won it. Willie Pep never won it. Sugar Ray Robinson won it 1 time. Everything's got to come into place in that particular year.
And Marciano won it 3 or 4 times yet.
I don't think.
He won it at least 3, Jack.
I don't remember exactly what Marciano.
He won it Ring Magazine Fight of the Year at least 3 times.
Well, I'm talking about the Boxing Writers Association of America. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But Jones, in 1994, beat James Toney. Masterful performance with Foreman. Knocks Mora out to St. Memphis with Foreman. What other categories, Lee? I don't want to.
Upset of the year. And here are the candidates that I came up with. Orlando Romero over Ryan Garcia.
Raleigh Romero.
Yeah. Jose Armando Resendiz over Caleb Plant. That was a pretty big surprise.
Who cares?
I forgot all about that, but you're right.
Yeah. Fabio Wardley knocking out Joseph Parker and Jorge Garcia Perez over Charles Conwell.
Fabio Wardley was given a legitimate shot with Joseph
I don't consider that an upset.
Yeah, if a mild upsets take place, when you talk upset of the year, you talk about a clear upset. That's a little.
I guess it would be Raleigh and Ryan over Ryan.
Because Raleigh Romero. I mean, you didn't think he was going to win with Garcia coming back there. Yeah.
Yeah. I also put together a list of female fighter of the year, and I came up with three candidates. One is Gabriela Fundora. She is the undisputed flyweight champion, and she defended twice.
She won it last year, right?
She may have won it last
BWAA. Female fight of the year.
Yeah. She continues to roll and she continues to dominate. And then Michaela Mayer had a really good year as well.
You get my vote, Michaela Mayer.
Even I know that, and I'm not a big women's boxing proponent.
No. Yeah. And then here's the dark horse, Mizuki Haruta. And you may not have heard this name, but she's the WBO super flyweight champion. And like her countryman, Naoya Inoue, she defended her championship 4 times. She won on points, the last 2 by shutouts across the board. Again, activity should be rewarded and success should be awarded. She's not going to win the award because nobody knows who she is, but it's up to us to figure
I kind of want to get on one particular topic because you're from Virginia.
West Virginia. And Keyshawn Davis is from Virginia. Mm-hmm.
Keyshawn Davis's brother loses a fight. The other 2 brothers go into the locker room and attack him strictly for that reason. There wasn't any trash talking going on. They just attack him because he beat their brother.
Yeah.
And no penalty takes place. You'd think the governor would. It's awful. He gets away with it.
And then this was on the card where he was supposed to headline, and he misses weight by over 4 pounds. So he loses his championship. And then he sees one of his brothers beaten. I mean, I looked. He has apologized and said
I
that
don't, Ken. I
it
don't want
doesn't
to
matter really.
apologize after the penalty and the discipline.
Right.
Then the apology will mean something.
And now he's going to be coming back pretty soon, and
No
he's got a lot
consequences to his action. He gets away with it. He should have been taken to the precinct on an assault charge.
Yes.
And then and assuming he was guilty, and it seemed obvious he was in this situation, put him on probation or something, for like a couple of years, and then clear his record if he gets better, whatever. But they get away with it, these guys. I mean, we were talking before the show, Frank, myself, Ryan Garcia, PDU, suspended a year, loses the size of Vito Romero, title shot. Jack Obermeyer, who you were fond of, pointed to one fighter's record once. It was the funniest thing. I forgot the guy's name. Lost, and he'd say how he lost. He would stop half the fight. Lost, title shot. He went down the list, and we were cracking up. But
I remember a guy named Francisco Quiros, and he had a shot against Lupe Madera for I think the WBA Light Flyweight Championship in the 1980s. I watched it live on the Spanish International Network. He came into that fight with a record of 8-9-1, and he became champion when he knocked Madera out in round 9. It was amazing. And he actually recorded a successful title defense before losing to Joey Olivo. So you never know when you have one of those quantum leap moments where a fighter with a rotten record suddenly emerges and bursts into flower and becomes a world champion. Sal Mandy was one. Carmen Basilio was another,
Mike Weaver.
Yeah.
Who was a fight? Not Freddie Pendleton. Oh, boy. Around his time.
Out of Philly, Jack?
Steve Robinson, who lost his title to Hamed. Yeah, guys. Before we move on, any other categories? Because I don't want to, you did this work, so I don't want to.
Event of the year. Okay, so of these three, which would you say was the event of the year? Terrence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez, Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul, or Chris Eubank and Conor Benn 1. Which was the best event?
I want to go Crawford. I can't go Jake Paul. I'm sorry, I can't.
I would think Crawford because the celebrities came out for that one more. So I know they come out for Paul's fight. But we do have a great fight at the end of the month. A great matchup: Teofimo Lopez, Shakur Stevenson. I mean, I'll be honest. I'll be rooting for Teofimo Lopez because I know him, and him and his dad have been great. I have access to him whenever I want. But Shakur Stevenson, does he have the wrong style for Teo, style-wise?
To tell you the truth, I think the big question that surrounds that will determine the result of this fight is which version of either man is going to show up, because they tend to run hot and cold. Yes, Shakur Stevenson is undefeated, and yes, Teofimo Lopez has only one loss, but the level of performance is inconsistent. Shakur Stevenson has had performances in which he was dominant, but he didn't excite, like the Jeremiah Nakatila fight, for example. And then he bounces back and he beats Jamel Herring by 10th round knockout. He looks great against the Japanese fighter. And he's coming off, I think, one of his best performances against William Zepeda. I actually picked Zepeda to beat Stevenson because of the volume, the pressure.
A lot of people thought that going in. I didn't think that'd be the case, but I could see why you would think that.
Yeah, I mean, this was the ultimate acid test. And because Shakur, he wanted to prove that he could stand and fight against a guy like Zepeda. And Zepeda landed, I think, 272 punches on Shakur Stevenson. It was actually pretty close statistically. But when it comes to ring generalship, That's where Shakur Stevenson won that fight. He fought back. He used every bit of his ring IQ, and he deservedly won the fight. Teofimo Lopez, he's coming off a technically brilliant but not too exciting performance against Barboza. When he got up to 140, he too has run hot and cold. He looked very good against Pedro Campa. He looked very good against Josh Taylor. But there are other fights like the Sandor Martin fight where Teofimo was caught on ESPN's microphone asking, "Do I still got it?" Like, have I
remember
lost
that.
it? Right? So the fight's going to be in New York. They're going to have both of their fans there. Newark is not that far away, so I think the crowd is going to be split. I think that Shakur Stevenson has the edge. I think that his ring IQ is going to see him through. I think it's going to be a decision. I don't think it's going to be a firefight because that's not where Teofimo is now at 140 pounds. He's not the same guy that knocked out Mason Menard with on his face with one punch, or doing the video game dance after knocking out Diego Magdaleno. He is more of a mature, technical boxer. He's very gifted. He's very smart. I think that Shakur is just a little bit smarter and a little bit better.
The style matchup favors Shakur. And so Shakur is a little bit strong, even though he's not a big puncher. He's the physically stronger guy than people think, and a little more durable. So it sounds like you're going to give the edge to Shakur Lee. And I think if I was going to pick the fight right now, I'd agree with you. I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
And this is debated a lot. I know where I feel on where I stand on this.
A 2-minute warning because we're coming towards the end of the show. So we have Leon for 2 more minutes and then the clock runs out.
Wait, what do you think? Is Alexander Usyk an all-time great?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is, because he was undisputed cruiserweight champion. He was undisputed twice heavyweight champion, but moreover, he did it as the ultimate road warrior. He beat world champions on their home turf time and time again. And yes, it was a matter of necessity. Ukraine is still in a very perilous situation, but he answered the call, and every single time he's answered the call. Yes, he is an all-time great.
Is he the best heavyweight since Lennox Lewis retired?
He could very well be. I think his record speaks for itself.
We're along the same lines, thinking.
Yeah, very, very quickly. I mean, you're involved with the Hall of Fame, to an extent. And this year, I couldn't understand the balloting of the voters. The Hall doesn't make the decisions. Ben and Eubank, the seniors, okay? They're like together. It's like Abbott and Costello, or whatever. How does one get in the Hall of Fame, Nigel Benn, and not Chris Eubank? Either
recency bias.
I don't get that. I didn't get the voters how Ben gets in our Eubank of,
Well, Triple G was going to get one of the check marks. He was the one shoe in. I really think recency bias because Conor Benn fought Eubank in the rematch just before the voting began, and Conor Benn looked really good, and Nigel Benn was pretty big part of the buildup, and also Antonio Tarver. He was on the broadcast team for Crawford and Canelo, and so he got a lot of visibility. So I really think that recency bias, and both men have had pockets of advocates on social media.
Yeah.
And I think in a year in which there are no shoe-ins besides Triple G, a lot of those fighters who have built-in support systems will more likely get in, and I think they had it.
Great. Okay,
I think Eubank will get in.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Okay, Lee, we thank you for coming on. Great stuff.
Good seeing you, Lee.
It's good seeing you guys.
Great seeing you. See you around, Lee. Okay. And people out there, watch Lee's podcast with James Smitty Smith. It's called In This Corner, right?
When is that on, Lee?
Yeah. In This
What
Corner
day and time?
We usually run on Saturdays. We have been a little flexible. But you can see it on YouTube, Smitty's YouTube channel. It's called In This Corner. And In This Corner of the podcast, Smitty's a great broadcaster, and we have a lot of fun.
Great, Lee. Thanks for coming on, Lee. It was great. All the
Thank you.
best.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
All right. Take
Happy
care.
New Year. Lee Groves, always a pleasure with Lee. I mean, Lee's so tech savvy, he doesn't know how to get off the show now. I mean, come on. That's what I mean, technology here.
And if you notice, Jack, of course, Lee, it was in line with a lot of what I said regarding Crawford, regarding
Absolutely.
Usyk scoring the fights. I mean, come on, Jack. Why do you ever disagree with me?
Well,
Why do you ever disagree with me
I
other
gotta
than to
say,
make it
I can't-
interesting?
I'll agree with you because we got to get off the air, Frank. Now we've come to the final bell rang. Till next week, there's see you all of you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. See you next week.